Tibet House US and Menla Online present a celebration of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 85th birthday with Bob Thurman.
And how is everybody? Are they seeing me now when I'm talking?
They are seeing you, yes.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. On greetings. I don't know if everybody's on board already, but
Not yet.
Here we are. I'm broadcasting or live streaming. Thank you, Justin. I'm live streaming from Tibet House's Menla Retreat and Spa Resort in the Catskill Mountains in the town of Phoenicia. And it's a beautiful day and the wonderful woods, a lot of oxygen from the woods. And I'm sitting in the main teaching hall. We call it Nalanda Hall or Conference Center. And behind me is a tanka in the old Western Tibetan style, although it's a reproduction, modern painting, in other words, in that style, of the medicine Buddha. And although somehow it's left-right reversed, I don't know why, the way it's shown, and that has to do with the image. I don't quite know why that is, but that is the case. It's his right hand that's down, should be. But I'm not left-right. Oh, yes, I'm left-hand reversed too. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. Anyway, we are here to celebrate His Holiness's 85th birthday in our Western way of counting. And actually, in Tibetan way of counting, it's 86. Because they give mom the credit for having that baby in their belly there for 10 lunar months or 9 solar months, which is almost a year. So you were 1 year old when you were first born. And so that makes him 86 in Tibetan way. He himself thinks of it as 86. And we are congratulating him. And we're joining a chorus of people, I would say millions of people around the world are congratulating him. And all of the different Tibet houses in the world, which are not enough of them, but there are 10 or so, have different, maybe 15 if you count some sort of beginning ones in some countries, usually the capitals of the countries. And they are all watching that. I'm going to play you something from the Tibet house in Barcelona, which is a closely, we're all independent. We don't have any official linking, but we are unofficially all affiliated in the same mission of preserving Tibetan culture, which at this beginning stage means presenting it to the world to get people to appreciate it and then realize it's worth preserving, then they will help to preserve. That's sort of our mission. And our slogan at Tibet House, in case some of you don't know, but I imagine many of you do, is Love Tibet, because that's what we hope for people will do to join us in loving Tibet. We love Tibet. That's why we work for this. And we hope people will love Tibet. And once they do, some people like to help politically, some people like to help economically, some people like to help religiously or something. But our job is culturally, the precious Buddhistic, because the Bembos are also kind of Buddhistic, actually. So the culture of Tibet, that's what our job is. And so we are thanking His Holiness very much on his birthday for being with us. Now, the issue of birthdays is kind of interesting. And let me just say it by way of introducing what one does in the Tibetan culture when you celebrate a birthday of a living Lama. If a Lama has passed, a great Lama has passed away, you celebrate their passing away day as a great day for them. Sad day for you, but great day for them. But in a way, since these guys and ladies return, it's just another part of the cycle, But if they did a particularly great job, if they're called the great so-and-so, like present Dalai Lama is definitely the great 14th Dalai Lama. He's not just the 14th Dalai Lama, he's the great one, like the great 5th and the great 13th. There were some particularly great ones. And he is awesomely great, definitely, for his 85, 86. And he had a huge impact on the whole world. Nobel Peace Prize, and then way beyond Buddhist. And actually, the other day, he was giving a talk Where did I see that? In one of his online things. And by the way, many you can check out probably right now, and you can see a teaching that he did last night, shown last night in the West. It was early in the morning or middle of the day in India the next day. And it was a teaching on the eightfold, 8 verses of mind training or mind transformation by Langri Tangpa, Geshe Langri Tangpa of the Karmapa order, the old Karmapa order. And he just said what he said. I love the way he said it with great vehemence. He said, never have I ever given a lecture or a talk of any kind to anybody in the effort to make them into a Buddhist. He said, I'm not into spreading Buddhism, he said. He's into people who are Buddhists, he's into helping them be better Buddhists. And then he likes to encourage the interaction of world religions in a positive, favorable way. And so in that sense, he wants the Christians to be better Christians. He once gave a lecture in an English monastery to Christian monks on the New Testament. And the first lecture that he gave, he spent quite a long time saying that he would consider, he was doing it at the invitation of the abbot, and he was enjoying it so much, reading and looking at Jesus's Beaction and teachings and so on. And he was really enjoying it, but he said that he would consider his teaching a total failure if anybody in the audience would feel attracted to Buddhism, because of course he was going to do a Buddhist interpretation of Jesus's life and teaching, but he was doing it to strengthen their Christian faith in Jesus, not to turn them to a Buddhist appreciation of Jesus, but just by that the Buddhists also appreciate, he would hope that would strengthen their Christian one. And it would be a failure if they thought, oh, gee, I like the way the Buddhists think about it. He didn't want, rather, and he didn't want to do that. And so he said he never tried to make anybody Buddhist. I think that's so cool. I can't tell you how cool I think it is. And I've tried, in a way, I had the same discipline, although I love Buddhism. I did from the time I discovered it 50 years ago or 60 years ago. I guess 60, oh my goodness, 60 years ago. I really love it. I just loved it from the beginning. But as an academic, you can't teach it in such a way that you're trying to subscribe people or change their denomination. You have to be non-denominational and non-proselytizing in academic thing. So you expound it as a system of knowledge. It's like if you teach a course in Plato, you're not trying to convert somebody to be a worshiper of Apollo, like Plato was, if you follow me. So that's great. That's a similar discipline. But maybe I was thinking maybe it'd be good for people to be Buddhist, I guess, in my younger years, because I liked it so much. And I really now, though, at this stage, I so much appreciate, I have for decades now, that he restrained that in himself, and that he feels, because that's his pitch to the Pope and the Muslims and the Hindus and the Taoists, whoever he speaks with, the Jews, the Christians, is, please, let's not convert each other. Let's do our own thing better. And actually, that goes all the way back to the Emperor Ashoka, who wrote that on a stone edict that was dug up by the British eventually, the books about it. And he said, I don't want people trying to convert them to each other's religions. But it's good that they learn about each other's religions and not criticize the other people immoderately, he actually says. Sometimes you can have creative, constructivist critiques of something that you feel they could think more about or something like that, but not in a bad way. But he said the key thing in learning is to learn your own religion better and to practice it better and to develop your own mind to live up to its ideals. And that goes back, that's the 3rd century before the Common Era, the Emperor Ashoka in India. Marvelous. So Dalai Lama is just living up to that same thing and on the modern world. And he's bringing that to the modern world. So that's the thing. Now, why are we so gaga about the Dalai Lama? Well, the Dalai Lama, here we have a book that we made here. I think you can see, Man of Peace. And the wonderful Alex Gray made this painting for which we use as the cover, which is a marvelous, little bit psychedelic painting. He's the incarnation of Avalokiteshvara of the 1,000 arms, 1,000 eyes, and 11 heads, which you can see sort of behind him, like an aura behind him and a little bit on his forehead. Somebody once thought it was like a tattoo on his forehead. But it's not. It's an aura coming through, and he's just an ordinary human being. He makes a big fuss about that. An ordinary, simple Buddhist monk, and so the fact that he is alive on a planet in the time of great crisis that we're in. You know, the 20th century was a great crisis, World Wars I and II, and then the gradual unpeeling of horrible colonial 500 years of genociding all kinds of people and exploiting them and ripping them off, done by the Europeans initially, and then the Americans joining in. First, the Americans rebelled. We have one side of America that's good where we rebelled. That's Declaration of Independence. That's yesterday. You know, that's where we're against empires, you know. But then we kind of got caught up in it the last 100 years. And terrible wars and stuff, right? And then now we have the danger of nuclear war still, not over. People still spending, you know, big powers, quote unquote, still spending way too much money on this like planet obliterating military technologies. But in a way, they're not military because no one can use them, because if they did, then the other would escalate and then everyone would be completely flattened and there would be no winner. So that's a big crisis in history, because people are used to having wars now and then, you know, societies are, and we have to stop that. And then the second, the planetary thing by consumerism, the planetary destruction by the climate pollution, the ocean pollution, the soil pollution, and what other element is there, and the overheating and the wind pollution, the air pollution. So it's really dreadful. And in that time that we have a great Bodhisattva like him, and there are quite a few others, you know, there's holy people in all other religions. There's a lot of other holy Tibetans, holy Buddhists of other kinds of Buddhism, holy Muslims, Christians, Jews, Taoists, Hindus, etc. So there are lots of them. They don't have to be Buddhist. And the fact that there are such people on the planet is what gives us some hope that we ourselves can bring our own minds out of our mess, you know, and out of our bad habits, out of our subscription or our conditioning, our brainwashing by these kind of backward cultures that are not acting unaware or in denial of our responsibility to care for the planet and for nature, and are unaware of the destructiveness of our military, our violence technologies that we can't even use anymore, and so on. So these things, so therefore we have to now overcome the racism, the sexism. The males have to let the women tell them to shut up so that they will not fight, you know, and not to fight each other and this kind of thing. And the women have to be women and make sure they do that. And that we have an example of someone who's done it. And actually the Tibetan culture is a culture for all its imperfections. Don't think I'm saying it's Shangri-La, because it is not. But it was a pretty happy country before the Chinese invasion in the 50s. And the British invasion, or, you know, 50 years earlier than that even, which started a sort of cycle. And it was quite a jolly, cheerful country with an intermediate technology they were pretty happy with. Very earthy people, but happy because over the previous 1,300 years, they had changed over that's like 60, 70, 80 generations. They had changed from being a conquest, domination, militarized culture that beat up everybody in their neighborhood. They were like Genghis Khan type of people. And then they became completely peaceful and therefore ultimately in the 20th century vulnerable, and still today vulnerable. And but that makes you happier to be peaceful, even if you're a bit vulnerable. And then of course you're not happy when someone takes advantage of the vulnerability. They scraped through for a long time because they were so inaccessible and hard to reach. But now they're having this hard time, you know. So anyway, that's the thing. So now, how do we celebrate the person? What you do with the great Lama's birthday is you ask them to accumulate many more birthdays. You demand that they not pass away. The idea is actually they're happy in life because they are non-dual in feeling released and nirvanized. But in a way, they are still engaged with you. And so you say, don't leave and go off and be in your private nirvana, stay with me. And that's the Bodhisattva does that. And so that's what you do. So after this little bit of an introduction, we're going to read together. We're going to try to get it up on screen for you to read with me. And we're going to read the long life prayer, one of the main long life prayers of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and which is what they do in those long life ceremonies. Even though His Holiness once said, I was at a long life ceremony for him in Kundun Monastery in South India, the rebuilt Kundun Monastery in South India, because the one in Tibet is under communist oppression, and that just really functions as a tourist destination. And because they can't really practice things, they have to read Mao's little red book and stuff, the thought of Xi Jinping and whatever. And but there's a real one, thousands of monks in South India, miracle of by the Dalai Lama keeping that alive even in exile. And they did a big long life for him. And at the beginning of it, a huge elaborate thing, thousands of people, enormous parades of gifts and presents and things brought up, you know, by long lines of people. It takes hours to go through them. And he sits and blesses everybody and thanks them and so on. But he said at the beginning, really, you all don't really need to make such a fuss. I know for sure that I can make it to 110, and I'm going to do that. So, you know, you don't have to act like I'm disappearing any day, you know? And then they were looking kind of, oh, well, we don't need to, but we have made a fuss. So then they went ahead and made a fuss, of course, with relish and gusto. And he's smiling, he's happy, you know, but that's sort of his thing, you know. And so we're so lucky to have him in the world. Thank you, Your Holiness, for being with us for 86 years. And thank you for staying at least another 25. And in fact, in the prayer, an inconceivably long time. You know, they say 10,000 years, 100,000 years. But of course, if they're feeling compassionate, then when the body gets really creaky, you know, you could renew it, you know, and that's what those reincarnate lamas do. And they really do that, the Tibetans believe. And I also think so. I think I understand the technology of how they do it. I have no idea how one would actually develop that ability, but they apparently have. Quite a few of them. Okay, so so that's really all I wanted to introduce. And then yeah, I don't have a cake. When we do this normally, and next year, hopefully Tibet House will be open in New York. And here in Mainland, we'll have parties, we'll have a cake. We invite Tibetan monks to chant and maybe some kids to dance and things like that, to do some Tibetan cultural performance. We try to always do that, and it's a wonderful, nice event. And I imagine many of you here online would normally have come to that event in the city or up here. And but now we have to visualize it. And that's a big thing. Tibetans do a lot of visualizing, and it isn't meaningless. It's very, very valuable. In fact, there is a very funny story I'm inclined to tell you quickly about the nomad who had made a beautiful fresh butter, not rancid butter like people think yak butter is rancid. This is not Zo butter. It was like really delicious butter, creamy butter, and all wrapped in a they don't use plastic. They have the intestine of a yak, and which is like a plastic, but it's biodegradable. And he was bringing it to make offerings to a famous Lama who was traveling and visiting and giving a teaching. So then he went, of course, to attend the teaching. And then what you do is have a line at the end, you get a blessing and you make your offering. And he was a simple nomad. And so teaching had a lot of instructions, visualize this and that, and there's the deity in front of you. It has this many arms and heads and whatever. And then if you imagine there are flowers and symphonies and orchestras and offerings and all sorts of things, and festive dishes and incenses and clouds of perfumes. And you imagine all of this and going on and on. And he couldn't really imagine. He wasn't used to this, and he couldn't visualize. So he was getting kind of irritated, actually, in the long teaching. So then he did get up, and in the end, he went up to get his blessing, and he's clutching his bag of sack of butter. And then he said, but he was just a little bit bugged with the Lama, even though it was a great Lama and he was bowing and everything, but he was still a little bugged. So then it was very Tibetan, you know, they're so earthy. So then he says to the Lama, gets the blessing, he's holding the butter, and then he says, Your Holiness, I never imagined you could accomplish so much doing all that visualizing. And, you know, I'm not that good at it, but I'm sure you're much better. And I was going to give you this butter, but instead, what I think is you should visualize that I'm giving you the butter. And I think I'll take it home with me. He said, and okay, the Lama said, fine, no problem. He would visualize it. So that's Tibetans have a very sense of humor about all their things and their rituals, So don't get too serious about this. And Dalai Lama also hates formality. And the other day on Voice of America, they asked me to repeat an incident in my long time of knowing His Holiness since 1964. And that was a humorous one that had an impact on my life and the life of my family and so on. So I remember this one time in 1980 it was, and I was there with my 4 kids and my wife in a farewell interview, having been a sabbatical year in Dharamsala, doing some work with His Holiness, many visits we had and so on, working on things. But this one I wanted to be formal because I wanted the kids to have a lesson of being formal with your Lama, the great Lama that you adore and you worship and you want to study with, and it's your guru and so on. So I go in and the kids are in there all with me, and then I'm trying to bow. I'm trying to do a formal bow. But somehow as I'm going down in the formal bow, His Holiness very naughtily, he reaches out as if he thought I was trying to shake his hand, and he grabs my hand and I'm going down to bow. So naturally I tumble over and fall on the floor actually, and on my right side. And the kids are laughing. They think it's really outstanding. And my wife is triumphant because she was telling me, don't do a bunch of formalities. His Holiness doesn't like it. She's trying to get me to stop. And I'm trying to make this big show. And bam, I fall on the floor. So then I'm kind of sheepish and flustered. And His Holiness is laughing and he helped me up. And as I'm getting up, and then the kids are all greeting him and it's a big laughter and the situation is all eased. So then we kind of go and we all sit around for the audience. And then suddenly there's this clanking noise and we all look around, and the youngest one, who at that time was 2 years old, he was doing the Australian crawl, swimming across the floor because he thought that was what you were supposed to do. He thought that's what I was doing. He was only 2. And so he's swimming across the floor, clack, clack, clack on the floor. And His Holiness totally cracked up at that. So anyway, I told this on Voice of America, and the guy was translating into Tibetan. I hope it went out there just to show people, although I hope they won't think it's irreverent, because I'm not. I deeply revere His Holiness. But it was a wonderful event, really. And I was the one being sort of pious and silly. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to try to show this prayer. I'm going to first thing together. Let's do this together, okay? It's called the Song of It. Do you see it? Are you guys seeing it? Can anybody?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, they don't see it?
Not yet.
You'll need to hit
you want
this.
to show it, or I'm doing screen share? What shall I do?
You're doing screen share from your desktop.
What's that?
Screen share.
Screen share? Now I don't see anything.
It's green.
Oh, yeah, okay, get on the screen.
And then the document will be on the screen.
Yeah.
Next to whiteboard.
Screen share, I'm doing screen share. There, I did it. And then I hit this, yes.
You hit to optimize?
Yes, I did. It is hit. Okay. Come on. Oh, it's not really coming up.
Over here.
What? Oh, that one. Okay.
I always miss that too.
Okay, now I hope everyone can see this.
Yes, it's visible.
I will start reading, and I hope you see it, okay?
We see it.
Okay, good. Song of Immortality, prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I will read it slowly so you read it together. That would be ideal. Like we can have a group online thing in the era of COVID, of the COVID visitor. Unwelcome visitor, but anyway, there he is. There it is. O our gurus and your line of lamas, for whom we have the deepest gratitude, you who are the repository of the 3 secret powers of body, speech, and mind of innumerable Buddhas, who manifest in a miraculous way to each devotee according to his or her capacity, to you who are the wish-fulfilling gems, the source of all virtues and good qualities, we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that our protector of the great land of snows, Tenzin Gyatso, upholder of the Dharma, the great ocean, may he live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. the Dharma Dhatu, the inexpressible reality which pervades all things like the heavens, immaculate, full of great bliss and transcendental wisdom, manifest like a cloud the numberless abodes of the higher divinities, the mandalas of the heavenly beings, and to all the higher forms of the divine ones, the yidams. I have to scroll over the Tibetan to the next page. We offer our prayers with intense devotion. The Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. O you numberless Buddhas of the past, present, and future, who are the masters of the 10 powers and teachers of the gods, whose attributes of perfection, free from defilements and born of realization, are the source of the Buddha activity which appears for all time in the ocean of the suffering of the world for the sake of all sentient beings. To you we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. O sacred dharmas of the 3 yanas that liberate us from the sufferings of the 3 worlds, supremely calm, the jewel treasure of the fully enlightened ones, without impurities, unchanging, eternally good, the peak of virtues, to you we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. In a way, when we say Dharma, we mean reality itself. We mean all the teachings, all the practices, and so forth. So you don't have to read that. I'm just commenting. So that's a wonderful thing, because that's the Buddhist faith, is that reality is that goodness, that totally, eternally good energy in the world, which is capable of pouring blessings on His Holiness the Dalai Lama. O all you noble Sangha, awakened and unsullied, of the highest valor in conquering the suffering of the wheel of life, with the transcendental wisdom that directly intuits the deeper truth, never departing from the indestructible Vajra abode of Nirvana, to you we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. And then, O you Dakas and Dakinis, these are like male and female angels, heavenly beings of the 3 worlds, who appear in the highest paradises, the sacred places, the cremation grounds, who have innumerable experiences of the bliss of the void, supporting the yogis and yoginis in their meditation on the excellent path. To you all we offer our prayers with intense devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. To the ocean of guardians of the teaching, who possess the eye of transcendent wisdom, carrying on their matted locks the knots symbolic of the vows they made to the Vajradhara Buddha, the powerful ones who protect the teaching and the upholders of the Dharma, we offer you our prayers with intense devotion, that Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the great land of snows, may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. To all you guileless ones in whom we take the excellent refuge, we pray with intense devotion humbly from our very heart, that by the strength of these verses, Ngawang Losang Tenzin Gyatso, he who has power over speech, the kindly one, upholder of the Dharma, the great ocean, he who possesses the 3 secret powers, may he be indestructible, eternal, and without end. That, seated on the supreme unconquerable throne of the Vajra, he may live for 100 aeons. Pour on him your blessings that his aspirations may be fulfilled. You who bear the burdens of innumerable Buddhas, with courage carrying on your shoulders the vast activities of the fully enlightened ones, working for the weal of all beings like the wish-fulfilling gem, the jewel of jewels, may your aspiration be perfectly fulfilled. By the virtue of this, may the golden era be opened like a gate to the great spaces, liberating all sentient beings, coming as the happiness of spring, which comforts our sorrows and helps the teaching of the Buddha to spread in all directions and in all ages, making it proper to the summit of prosper, to the summit of samsara and nirvana. O you with a lotus in your hand, may the nectar stream of your, that's Avalokiteshvara, you know. May the nectar stream of your blessings strengthen our mind and bring it to maturity. May we be able to please you by practicing the Dharma through accomplishing at all times the good deeds of the Bodhisattvas. May we reach Nirvana. By the blessings of the wondrous Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by the unassailable truth of the spiritual laws of cause and effect, by the unstained power of the pure mind, may the aim of our prayers soon be accomplished. And I think that's all. So now we visualize that we have a cake each in our respective residence in our hand, and we offer this cake, and His Holiness smilingly, with a candle on top, and he smilingly blows out the cake. Visualize that. Blows out the candle after making a wish. And of course, his wish is always that we have peace, harmony, compassion, world peace through inner peace. And he's done so much to realize that. And within this next 25 years of his immediate life that he's pledged to live, well, may it be longer, because may he discover a fountain of rejuvenation at all times. But at least that he has pledged, may he in his lifetime see the fruition of that. And may Tibet be free, may the people be at peace, may the Dharma flourish there, and may the lighthouse of spirituality that radiates from Tibet, enlivening all religions and all secular humanism, which itself is a kind of humanistic religion, may all of them be inspired by this. And within his lifetime, may he see that fruit, okay? So now we're going to play the brief thing that our friends in Barcelona did, and I pray Wangchen, La Tupten Wangchen, who is a monk of His Holiness's Namgyal Monastery, very learned monk, and a wonderful friend for many years for me. He was a young monk there, I think, when I was, I believe, and although he looks much younger than me, but I think so. And or he soon after, you know, as I was visiting back and forth, he was there, and he pulled together a wonderful collage of people saying, all of our friends, actually, Dharma friends. So we played that now. Okay, Justin, can you play it? We're going to play that, which is actually wishing His Holiness. And some of it's in Spanish, if some of you are Spanish speaking. This is our tribute to Tibet House Barcelona, Casa del Tibet, Barcelona. There.
That's the gift for me on birthday.
This is the best gift
Please
for me for my birthday.
Keep your own mind, your own heart
please keep in your
more
mind
compassionate.
and in your heart.
On behalf of Tibetans inside and outside Tibet, I wish His Holiness, the great 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, a very, very happy birthday.
I would like to wish His Holiness a very happy 85th birthday.
With great respect, I sincerely wish His Holiness
the young Chichen of the Sakya, the
very
head of
happy
the Sakya
birthday.
order.
Happy birthday, Your Holiness.
We send you universes of love and gratitude. Happy birthday.
Muchas felicidades.
Ahora, al cumplir sus 85 años, le deseamos mucha felicidad.
En primer lugar, un fuerte abrazo desde Buenos Aires por tu cumpleaños.
Happy birthday, Your Holiness. I wish you to know that we will do all we can.
Feliz cumpleaños, Dalai.
Many, 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 many happy birthdays.
Hola, Su Santidad Dalai Lama. Muchas felicidades, espero que esté muy bien.
扎西德勒，达赖喇嘛尊者对我来说意味着智慧。
Que cumpla muchos, muchos más años.
I would like to say happy birthday to Dalai Lama.
Happy birthday. The people of Hawaii are sending you many blessings for a long and healthy life.
Gracias, Dalai Lama, y muchísimas felicidades.
Your Holiness, of course we wish you the most happy birthday.
May you stay healthy and have a long life, yeah? All the best for you.
Happy birthday, and Tashi-Dilek, Your Holiness.
Salam. He's a heroine standing up for the Uyghur people, like the leader of the Uyghurs.
Greetings, Your Holiness. It is so auspicious to congratulate you on your 85th birthday.
To wish His Holiness a very happy 85th birthday.
Su Santidad Dalai Lama,
En este día tan especial, le deseo muchas bendiciones.
Me uno a la celebración y a la acción de gracias por la vida de su santidad el Dalai Lama.
Feliz 85 cumpleaños de su santidad Dalai Lama. En nombre de la Fundación Casa del Tíbet, todos los socios, socias y amigas envío profundo respeto, homenaje y oraciones que tenga larga vida.
Now we're going to show some footage from Tibet House, and I'll give some more commentary about that. That's our wishes. I was so happy to do the Barcelona one because I like to work together with all the other Tibet houses in the world. That's our dream, is to have them as a functional network. You know, reinforcing each other to accomplish the mission, preserving that wonderful culture. Yes, Your Holiness. Okay, this picture, I'm going to see it in small on the side. Oh yeah, there it is. So this is His Holiness passing his exam to be a geshe, a PhD in 1958. A few months before he had to flee when he's 24 years old. Here's His Holiness reading a book on the Kala Chakra during a practice, giving the initiation. He's giving he's very technical, very conscientious to do. Here's a wonderful picture of His Holiness' first visit in 1979 to US with my root original teacher, the Venerable Geshe Wangyal, who was a Kalmyk Mongolian and who had a lot to do with helping him finally get a visa. From Tibetans making offering dances, as we try to do. And I'm sure they're trying to do I'm not sure in the community center. This is called a chakra mandala, the grid of how before they pour the colors, they create this drawing and they make these geometric lines very carefully. And actually His Holiness himself is doing it because of the Vajra teacher, when he gives the initiation, has to make it himself. So he's visualizing, imagining that all the lamas who are doing the artwork there are just emanations of him. They're what they call Lekit Karma Vajras. So they're just his own minions doing the work, but he's guiding it, and it's his mind that is behind even every drop of grain of pigment there. And that's me, not too long ago, discussing something with him. And listening to him. And this was when he visited Menla at the longevity conference that we did. And that's Mehmet Oz, if you might recall, Keshelos and Rabge, lots of nice people. And they were all here, many doctors, and one Nobel Prize winning woman scientist was there. Here he is with world religious leaders in one of his major efforts in life. You know, His Holiness has the 3 aims of life. Here's with Eric Repair, when we had a Tibet House special luncheon. And Eric gave us, used his space and brought us there. And he's himself a wonderful teacher, a wonderful chef, and a great teacher and supporter of Tibet. This was our famous peacemaking conference, where we were with His Holiness and many leaders of peace movements in different countries. And in Newark, New Jersey, we did that a few years ago. Here he's meeting at Tibet House, with Tibet House's collection behind the repatriation. We're collecting for the Tibetan Museum with Martin Scorsese, who made the Kundun movie, remember the movie about the young life of His Holiness. And there he's meeting Mother Teresa years ago. And there he's meeting the simple lady there, which he takes great interest in this very humblest, simplest people. He makes no difference between young and old, between famous and unfamous, between rich and poor, between any different race or gender or whatever. They're all his dear friends, as he says. He feels they are. He feels they are familiar. This is some Russian family. They support very much of Russia. Someday they may make Tibet House in Russia. There he's recently giving a teaching. That's a very recent picture. And there he is with Father Thomas Keating, I think, who's kind of a Zen Christian, but he's a real Christian. But I mean, he learned a lot from Zen. And that's me. Mr. Samdon Rinpoche there, and Ngawang Samden, two wonderful lamas behind them. And there's Philip Glass greeting His Holiness when he came last time to Tibet House. And I'm looking suitably gaga. There's greeting Nina, my good wife, and the actual executive, like manager, CEO of Tibet House, really, she is. And there he's saying to us, thank you, Your Holiness. May you live long and prosper, as Dr. Spock would say. Yes, more and more compassion. We're always working to it out. Meanwhile, please take enjoy every minute of the inconceivable long life of your inconceivable liberation. And then I wrote in Tibetan, Sanji Micharan, Chebi Nambutarit, Sering Sanji Michara. So an inconceivably long life. So I think that's sort of what we meant to do. And what is the time? Yes, well, in 40 minutes we completed. And you know, His Holiness has three aims in life, which are the common human values, world human values for everyone, transformative values, ethics. He wrote a book, he wants an ethical revolution. He wrote another book, the New Millennium, he wants a spiritual revolution. He wants an inner revolution. He wrote a most recent book to the young people, like Greta Thunberg type, that they should get up and speak up to get the grown-ups to actually shape up and really make the changes we can easily do to survive this climate catastrophe that we've created by our consumerist greed and the greed of our corporations, but also our own consumer greed. And inner revolution. So he's calling for all of that. And that involves the shift of people, individuals realizing their own responsibility and power and doing it. That's his first aim in life, is that one. It's on that plane that he teaches my religion is kindness. That's the common human religion of all beings, really, is kindness. And his argument, irrefutable argument, that the human baby is so helpless for so many years, depending on the kindness of strangers, that it's inconceivable for people to pretend that the basic human nature is aggressive and violent, when actually the human would never survive. We would, no generation would ever even grow up if everybody else was aggressive and violent primarily. The fact that the mothers take care of the child is a total proof of his thing. That's his argument, rather than saying Buddhist evolutionary biology totally says that, but he does it just on the basis of common sense. He argues that, and he does it very effectively. And he's touched millions of people around the world with that argument, that is our true nature. So that's his first thing. The second thing is to improve the interconnection and the interaction of the world religions, and make sure that there are no religious wars, in the highly armed situation, you know, particularly religious war is very dangerous, you know, because people feel even if they die, you know, they're going to go to heaven as long as God tells them that to fight the ungodly. And so this kind of theories that seem to justify violence in the name of religion, when all the religious leaders, including, you know, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, you know, Moses, eye for an eye. Eye for an eye means if you lose your eye to somebody, you don't kill them. You know, you just do some measuring restorative justice, but you don't kill them. You don't escalate, in other words. So it's in the direction of peacemaking, you know. And then Muhammad, he had to fight to defend his community in Medina from the Meccans in Mecca, who attacked them many times and were much outnumbered them. So he did have to fight in his life to defend themselves. But when he succeeded and they no longer were capable of attacking them, he then put aside his weapons and he walked unarmed to Mecca. And he said, look, you know, you can't kill me now, but now that we could kill you, I'm showing you that we're not going to do that, and I'm coming unarmed. And because it's God who wants us to be peaceful and to be peaceful in religion, and no violence in religion was originally his teaching like that. And that is that Muslims have been peaceful. Their long religion wouldn't have lasted. Of course, some sultans, the usual political types, under whatever religion, they go around and they conquer things. That's different. But the basic thrust of Islam is also peaceful. Islam means to surrender. So that's his world religion thing. Let them all realize that the goals of their founders are realized by each other. So they don't fight to convert each other and to overwhelm each other. And they change those elements in the theologies that make people think that if you don't follow this one, you're doomed, and also we can kill you. The worst, which is the worst part of it, you know, crusade type mentality. That we have to overcome as human beings, because the armament is too intense. So that's his second thing, to improve mutual respect, not just tolerance, but respect and mutual support of world religions, and to stop the idea that it's all going to be there's going to be one meal in the global restaurant for everybody, and everyone's going to be forced to keep eating the one meal, rather than a menu of wonderful spiritual opportunities. That's his key, very much his key thing. That's his goal in that, you know. It isn't to make people Buddhists, no way. And he and I agree, actually, that we have for years, that Buddha primarily was teaching science, actually. He doesn't make a noise about that with scientists, because of course they think that they have the only science that ever existed, which is a mistake, actually, that they make because of their materialism. They think that's so great and unique, whereas actually it's a drawback, which they will eventually discover. That doesn't mean that the opposite of materialist science is spiritual faith or something. The opposite of material science is material and spiritual science, where you can be reductionist about materials for a certain purpose, and then you could also be reductionist about the mind for other kinds of purposes, so that you're not stuck in one or the other, and you genuinely are making experience and reality, and your experiential encounter with reality, trump or overwhelm theory. And you're not dogmatic in your theories, as your science is not supposed to be. And so that's where science needs to go. You know, materialist science has to go there. They're stuck in this, you know, dark matter, dark energy, quantum uncertainty, all these different things. They won't get anywhere as long as they deny that they have minds when they're using their mind to be great scientists, that which we love, and we love them, by the way. But they're imprisoned in that dogma, which they got into because the Western Enlightenment was rightly getting away from a kind of really rigid religious orthodoxy of the Inquisition, and no free thinking and no investigation of the nature of reality, just going on some dogmatic theory. But then they made a counter-dogmatic theory because of the habit was still in the culture, you know. So anyway, I don't need to go at length on that. And so that's his second great thing, you know, and he's done huge steps in that direction, really marvelous. And the third, there's a movie tonight, actually, some of you might want to see, called Infinite Potential. And basically, it's actually really more about David Bohm, who was a great quantum physicist, American, but he had lived in England because of the McCarthyism and so forth in the 50s. But anyway, he mainly lived in England. But he was a wonderful man. I knew him, and I was there in some of the dialogues he had with the Dalai Lama, and just some social events too. And it's about him, but it also involves His Holiness. His Holiness is in that very, very nicely. And it's being shown tonight at 8:30 in the East Coast. And it's p.m. It's not late because it's being shown in India on His Holiness's actual birthday, which is daytime of the next day, tonight at 8:30 p.m. And then I'm on a panel with the Thupten Jimba and somebody else, and we'll be talking there about that. And if you're interested in the science thing, because Bohm's theory of the implicate order and the explicate order, and the idea that the mind was maybe touching something beyond quantum, and that there was an energy flowing through quantum that was really accessible only to the mind and to wisdom, and he was sort of open to that. And so his disciples have studied, Buddhist thought, Buddhist science, Native American science, and other kinds of sciences than just this materialist European American one. And yet he was highly respected as his mathematics and his physics. So it's a very interesting show, and he was very friendly. But His Holiness considered him a teacher of quantum physics. He did, to His Holiness, a tutor to His Holiness, Dalai Lama. And then the third one is His Holiness's devotion to Tibet, third aim in life. And there as a Tibetan, so the first one is as a human being, second is as a Buddhist monk, world religion, mutual understanding, which including science. And then third one is as a Tibetan, trying to get a break for his people and presenting the culture of Tibet. And he all these 70 years, or since 1950, he has refused to call for violent resistance to the Chinese invasion, colonization, even ethnocide, and practically genocide now in official policy. That more or less is. They're never mind. I won't go into detail, but it's still very harsh. It's less visible than the one they're doing with the Uyghur Muslims, but it's very bad in Tibet. It has been for a decade or so, a couple of decades, really bad. It's not gotten any better at all, but it's sort of hidden more to people. And so his job is to speak for them. And he performed like a miracle of keeping their community and culture together in exile, around 100,000 people in India, Nepal, Bhutan, and so on. And then, in an exile situation, destitute when they first came out, not used to the climate, could have easily just deteriorated and gone in and been assimilated in those things, scrambling for a livelihood. And yet he worked with the leaders of India, the Nehru family, the Gandhi family. They helped him, and he had certain kinds of special communities for the Tibetans, got them to keep their schools. He got the Indian school system to develop a Tibetan standard form of education for the Tibetan children. He had special teachings for other teachings for the children as well. And then he kept these most amazingly, he kept young people interested in being monastics and strongly studying, becoming great scholars and geishas and lamas in the time when they were destitute and would have just as well would go out and make some money to feed their parents even, but yet they stayed as monks. And that's a very core element of Tibetan Tibetan culture, that they have some people who are trying to live at a higher standard, intellectually, ethically, and compassionately by being monastics, nuns and monks. And it was amazing that, 30,000 people out of 100,000 maybe are these religious people within the exile community, which has a huge impact even in India, much less in the Tibetan exile community. And he's managed that. He's done that. He's set a huge example of fantastic study and teaching himself, written 100 books at least, and many in Tibetan itself, and given zillions of exhaustive verbal teachings to these great monks, to these wonderful groups. And then he's also having them study Western science and languages as well, so they can become great teachers themselves. And that's really miraculous. So that's what he's doing. And then he's still maintaining open heart and open mind toward the Chinese imperium, we should call it, the Chinese leadership. He got a little fed up with them in the last 8 or 10 years when she tried to moderate the treatment of Tibetans at first, when he got in the 2012, 13, 14, and the hardline old-fashioned guys wouldn't let him, and now he's become like them, maybe, unfortunately. And they've sort of forced him into their model. And he's allowing them to, or even urging them to be just as harsh as he was asking them not to be initially, So that made him kind of fed up, His Holiness, a little bit with the leadership, but he loves the Chinese people. He teaches. Last night he was teaching a group in Taiwan, huge group, free Chinese. They love to come to India and see him. People from the mainland, even from the communist thing, come there. Even members of Communist Party, they sort of keep it quiet, but they come. Because Chinese people love Buddhism, And it's just this communist thing. It isn't Chinese. There's something wrong with them. They are wonderful people. And they were Buddhists for thousands of years, but the communism and the materialism and the gangster kind of government system, they're really capitalist actually, but they use the communism as a suppression of the people. It's just right dreadful. And so he's patiently waiting on that. And he's going to wait 25 more years. It's sworn, and I'm sure he would wait 50. There were great lamas who lived 150, 200, even in India, 600 years. In Buddhist history, which Westerners think, of course, that's just fantasy, that's mythology. But who's to say that? Who's to say they didn't develop some sort of marvelous elixirs? They said Nagarjuna, for the last 400 years of his 600-year lifespan, he never ate ordinary food. Because, caloric restriction is the way to be, is to keep your cells going. But you have to give them something. You have to take energy from somewhere. And apparently he didn't. So he'll stay as long as it takes until he'll see in his lifetime his people get a break. That's his third aim in life as a Tibetan. And I know he will succeed. Then, marvelously, when he goes back to Tibet, and the Dalai Lama institution goes back to Tibet, it will not be a political institution anymore. That's why journalists get wrongly think he's the last Dalai Lama. That he's not. He will be incarnating forever in the Drawback monastery, in the Kundun mansion that was his residence in Drawback monastery. And he'll be there as long as the rocks are there. He'll come back again and again and again. So there'll be endless more Dalai Lamas. And people will keep calling him Dalai Lama for sure. But he has refused by charter, by amendment to the Constitution, he has refused to take the political office and political responsibility. He will not be the king, in other words. He wants them to elect their leaders and so forth, even in a local government, even in federation with China. He wants local elections to work and doesn't want to be bossed on anything except foreign relations and defense from the Beijing. He wants to be federated, not just one country, two systems, which they're threatening to destroy in Hong Kong now, but one country, many systems, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Mongolia, Uiguria, Tibet, the Federation of East Asian States. This will be the sensible conclusion for the Chinese imperium to do, In a way, it's like going back to the way that the Chinese emperors were. They basically didn't really like colonizing, They sent out their own Columbus ships, which were 10 times bigger than Columbus's ship, actually, in the 15th century, in around 1400, Ming Dynasty. And they sent them out to Africa and everywhere, brought back elephants to China. But they never settled and tried to colonize people in those days. Nowadays, they're colonizing around in a certain way economically, South America and Africa, because they're doing the modern materialist technology economy, consumer economy. And so they're following us in that. That's not Chinese traditionally. That's following our model, which obviously is unsustainable. So it's a matter of our changing, not just them changing. We're all responsible for Tibet, not just the Chinese. And if we set a certain example, they will inevitably follow. If we don't set that example, they'll compete with us the way we do, and then we're in real danger both of war and of planetary pollution and destruction by climate. So anyway, that's what His Holiness is doing. And he adds a fourth one nowadays sometimes, which is he's out of gratitude to India, which was his host for all these 70 years. Well, he came out, 61 years. Came out 59, right? So they've been his gracious host with themselves having a lot of economic difficulties, and a huge population to take care of, although basically really wealthy environment, the Indian one, in its original thing, if not exploited by colonialism and so on. And in gratitude to them, he wants them to embed in their education their own inner yogas, their Hindus, Buddhist, Hindu mental sciences, Buddhist mental sciences, Jain mental sciences, not specifically Buddhist, but the great mind sciences that India developed in the Buddhist universities and later in the Hindu universities and so on. So that's what he really wants them to do. So that's kind of that's the kind of thing he's doing because of his gratitude to India. As he says, he's had more rice and dal than Tibetan food in his life. His body is made of Indian food. So he's like, he respects it. It's in a way, if Tibet is his fatherland, India is his motherland. He's saying that now. It was real lovely of him. So, okay, thank you, everyone. I won't hold it any longer. I think that's about an hour. We had our party, and talk amongst yourselves. Enjoy the cake that you offered. After you offer foodstuffs in Buddhist rituals, then people snack on them themselves. It's okay, and the deities don't mind. And be happy even in the midst of the COVID thing, and then also try to help the people who are really not happy because they're having such a bad time economically or medically, and try to help them all and support them. Wear a mask, be safe yourself, and be happy, actually. Because you'll do more to undo suffering if you're happy, because you have more strength and energy to do it. His Holiness, oh yeah, last thing, His Holiness said a beautiful thing last night. I watched him only a minute. I couldn't go on for longer, so late. But he said this one wonderful thing. He said that the author of the teaching, Langri Tangpa, who is in the lineage actually of his current translator, Thupten Jimba Langri, same name, Langri. He said that guy used to cry all the time and showed a very grim face because he was always meditating about the suffering of all beings. So he was not, not forgetting their suffering. And he was reading his text, and he said that he was famous, that author from the 12th century, or late 12th, early 13th century, who was like that. And he said, then how does that square with me, who is always showing this jolly face, he said. And he said he does that because he's trying to connect to the fact that the energy of compassion draws from the hope and the determination to make the suffering better of the other person. Not only just feel it, although to really get the drive strongly, you have to feel it. So empathy is the first step. But the second step is to yourself build up your own inner well of well-being inside yourself, where you have the energy and you can create a vibe for the one who's suffering so badly that somebody doesn't suffer. So, gee, maybe I can get out of it. And then also you have the skill and the energy to do something for the other. You don't just join them in the wallowing in their suffering, which wouldn't help them, right? So he says that's the reason for the jolly face. It's drawing at the deeper, analyzing reality, finding the ultimate goodness at the heart of reality, as it said in that long life prayer that we read. Finding that goodness that is there and remaining in touch with that while fully open to the other's suffering and fully determined to help them with it. It was really beautiful. I didn't know that Langri Tangpa was like that. So then, yes, one should we all have a little bit of merit, but really we're sending all our merit to His Holiness on his birthday. And of course, he doesn't want anything from us. But remember, he said, best birthday present, which he said at the very beginning there on the Spanish one, best birthday present, mi cumpleaños, mejor regalo, the best gift is, por favor, tenga en su mente, hold in your mind some more intense compassion for others. Try to be more, and for yourself, be more compassionate for yourself, which means make yourself feel better, and then you'll be able to be more compassionate for others. That's my best birthday present, that you constantly try to do that every day, even make it my birthday and do that. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And by the way, Tibet House, anybody who didn't get the mailing, probably all of you did, but anybody who didn't, His Holiness has kind of helped us to start a special fund drive, because of course we are suffering as an organization, Menla and Tibet House, because of the COVID-19 lockdown, and we can't have our usual events, etc. and we have employees and things like that. So we not to go bankrupt and to disappear. We're having a special drive to survive until we think probably next March, when we'll be able to maybe function normally, now that Mitch McConnell is insisting on wearing a mask. And even certain people who think it's some kind of sign of something. But now they're all trying to wear a mask, actually, except for the lead person. But otherwise they are. And so that then if they do that, and they take it seriously instead of acting like it's not there, then we might be out of it by next spring. If they keep it up like this, spiking, then I don't know. We will have to do a second fund drive. But anyway, we're doing that. So please look up tibethouse.us, menla.org. You will find the button there. And so we dedicate this merit for everyone. And everyone, thank you and have a lovely evening and day.
This Menla Online broadcast is brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US membership community and viewers like you. To learn more about the benefits of Tibet House membership, please visit our website at tibethouse.us.